Hi, welcome back. This is part 2 of creating a pumpkin luminary. So, in part 1, we created 2 pinch pots of equal size. Okay, I let those sit out for about 10 to 20 minutes. I checked them every so often just so they would firm up a little more. You can see that they're about the same size, and you can check that by placing them on top of each other and looking around the edges to see how they go together. Okay, now we are going to attach these using the score, slip, stick, and smooth method. You can use your pen tool. I happen to be using a bamboo skewer. You might find that in the kitchen section, the grocery store, or you could use a fork from your house. Have a spork, have a regular plastic fork, or you could even use a metal fork. Now, this is 1 prong, this is 4, so it's almost like it's 4 times as fast, or fork times as fast. Anyway, what you're going to do with this, you will lightly score the surface. And when I say score, I mean you're going to just make these little marks. You're kind of cutting into it like that. Okay? They don't have to be evenly spaced. Now, you don't want to cut too shallow like that, but if you cut too deep, then you are going to create more cracks or something in the side of your pot. Okay, so just try to find that right balance of doing that. And they can kind of crisscross a little. Now, the idea behind this is that you're going to score the surface to where it's open. You'll put slip on there, and then you're going to push those scored areas together so that they form a nice seal. And I'll show you with the fork. Goes a little faster. I still kind of like this though, I'll be honest. It's a little more firm. So once you go all the way around on both of these, I'll show you what we do next. Now that I have both pots scored at the top, the next step is slipping. Remember, score, slip, stick, and smooth. So I have some blended up clay right here, mixed with a little water. Shake it if you have let it sit for a while. Now, you can use an old paintbrush, or you can even use your finger or a popsicle stick and just apply that slip around the edge. Now, you don't want like huge globs on there, but you do want enough that it will help create a good seal, like glue. Okay, this is literally clay glue, essentially. So you want to put that all the way around on both of these. And what we're going to do next, we are going to carefully, gently, yet firmly press these together so that those scored areas start to interlock. The slip will fill in some of those areas and form a better bond between these. Okay, I'm trying to thoroughly cover this in slip, but not so much that it's just oozing everywhere. All right, I always like to make sure I wipe off any extra slip that I have and then cover it back up when I'm not using it consistently. That way it doesn't dry out. Now, for these, I line this up on top. I just kind of set it down first, make sure all the edges are meeting together. Check it, the side view. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to carefully put my hands around this, and I'm just going to give it a little push. So gentle, it's probably hard to see. Might even go from the side. And I'm pressing those areas together. But I don't want to do that so much. There's a bell for you guys to hear. Don't want to do that so much that it starts to squash or squish my clay. Okay, making this pumpkin. Currently, it's more like a sphere. Okay, and you'll notice that it goes outward a little, and that's fine. Okay, now we're gonna let that set up for a moment, okay? Once you have it like firmly pressed together, I'm carefully going around, making sure those edges are pressed in. I'm gonna let that sit over here, okay, to the side. And we're going to make a stem for our pumpkin, okay? So I'm gonna open my clay bag back up. I don't need a whole lot of clay for this. Get my fishing line, and I'm just gonna cut down and over, okay? About this much, almost like a finger's worth of clay. Clean that. And be sure you close your bag and squeeze all that air out. Set that to the side. Okay, so I have my clay here. Let's observe some stems on pumpkins. We see that this is almost like a star shape, or this particular one. There's texture on there. It's kind of bumpy. There's like these different raised areas. It's separated from the pumpkin just a little. There's like a hard line to where it lifts up from it. This other smaller pumpkin has a longer stem, or at least this one does. And again, you can see where it's kind of raised up from the surface. And it too has some unique texture. Okay. Well, what we're going to do with this, we're going to roll a coil. All right. Maybe you have like a ball of clay. You just want to roll that a little out on the surface. And when you're making a coil, you're kind of starting in the center and working your way out, okay? Depending on the thickness, all right? Now, think about the size of your stem and how it looks. So this one, it's a little thicker at the base and it got thinner, okay? Same thing for this. So one end of your stem probably is going to be a little thicker, okay? You could even do that, all right? Starting to look kind of like a stem. And think about the size relationship it's going to have, okay? And we can always trim this too. So I'm going to do that. Have my stem, and I kind of want to create some of those features that I saw between the two other stems, these extra ridges. I might lightly just pinch that just a little, not too thin, but I also don't want to make it look like a square. That other one is kind of like a star. I don't have to do a star. I could if I wanted to. We'll see what happens. But we want it to look natural, not geometric. Definitely an organic form, okay? And of course that kind of follows all the way up. You could use like a tool to kind of help you a little. Maybe a thicker one. I'm going to use the handle of this brush. Of course, as you're pressing into it, be mindful of how it's pressing into the surface on the other side, okay? All right. press that down a little more. So I kind of have these interesting texture areas on here. Now, what I can do, I can take my pen tool and I can start to add some extra texture, just kind of lightly carving into it. I don't want to carve too deep. You don't want to overdo it either. It'd be a lot. But as you do this, I'm kind of pressing down, because remember, I want this bottom part to be a little fatter, a little wider. And now some of those textured areas are going to go away as I try to shape this a little more. It's okay. We're going to make sure they still show up. All right. So I think this is starting to look like a good size for my pumpkin. Now, you can twist this a little gently. Maybe give it a little curve. Okay. And think about the texture that was kind of on the end. What might be left over from it being cut. You can also use your popsicle stick as a way to kind of indent the surface. That way you're not dragging any particular tool through it and it leaves those little crumbly pieces. And all the while, our pumpkin is setting up as we create this, okay? Where we have connected those pieces, those pinch pots together, okay? All right, so we have that. I'm gonna set this here. And what I want to do for the surface, now that this is set up some, I'm going to take this rib tool, okay, and I'm going to smooth this seam over. Now, you don't want to just go straight along it like this. You actually want to try to smooth the clay either from top to bottom or bottom to top, back and forth, maybe alternating. So that helps seal it better. Now watch this. Now I'm just not just trying to scrape it straight. It's at an angle like this. Okay, I might go this way now. Whichever way works best for you. We want to make sure it is hidden. Now, once you do that, I'll show you how we attach our stem. Okay, so finish this up by making your seam disappear, closing that. Take you a few minutes, all right? If you have extra clay coming off, it's okay. Just apply it on there. There we go. All right, look for part 3.